All right, troopers, in this video we are going to look at part one, dealing with proximity and alignment, and we're going to talk about what that means and look at some samples. So the idea of proximity is basically putting information that's related together in proximity. And that way you get a chance to scan the information, and because there's close proximity of related information, you see what you need to see really easily, very quickly, as opposed to, you'll even see this in here, I've got information that is in close proximity that is related, and so that's the idea behind proximity. And alignment is essentially structure. It's basically making things look organized by using inherent alignment, which we talked about in the last project, as the basis for creating structure within a design. So let's take a look at some samples. So, okay, let's take a look quickly at specs. So the first bullet point is investigate the variability of center axis placement. Experiment with flush left and flush right, and make five layouts. Now, 5 layouts would be the minimum. That would get you an average score. I'd like to see more like 10. And honestly, it would not be hard to do that. So let's take a look at what that means. So here's one student's work. And they went through, this is their center alignment, and there's 10 different designs. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. Okay, so the center axis is essentially the middle, right? Now the middle doesn't mean that everything has to be centered. It's just an axis point that the content needs to be related to. So certainly, a center line like this might work, and what's happened here is that this person has taken content that is related and put it on one side of the line, and then put content that's related on the other side of the line. So we have things that have to do with the overall effect of what the weather's doing. It's sunny, it's fair, it's warmer, it's cooler, it's got highs, it's got lows, and it has light and variable winds, and it has waves. Everything on the right side are days and nights, tomorrow, today and tomorrow, today, tomorrow. So these are all time-based content, or mostly, and also the actual numbers of the temperatures. So this is a way of thinking about dividing content in terms of proximity. Also, every concept for a given day is in its own island of information. And I talk about this in more detail in the book about islands of information. And this, again, allows you to scan quickly. All right, so the proximity allows the content that's similar to be together to create an island, and the organization or the alignment provides structure. Okay, so one of the things that he's done here is that, what's good is that he's exploring different line breaks. And you'll find a lot of proximity opportunities when you break the lines into multiple. So sunny days, fair nights through tomorrow, warmer today, cooler tomorrow. So now the line breaks make a lot of sense in terms of how you're structuring the content. And then, by moving things together, creating a different kind of center alignment. This would be what I would call a traditional center alignment, right? We see this a lot in advertising and in business cards that aren't done very well. But you can also explore center alignment by just playing around with what happens with the center. So we've got a balance, and a balance, right? So the center alignment doesn't necessarily mean everything has to be on that center line. Here's a nice juxtaposition, where the content goes left and right. This is a nice one where the center line is essentially, right about there. Actually, I'm not sure what he did, but the forecast might be out of line a little bit. But you get the idea, right? So here here we're flagging it again. And this is what's known as flagging. Flagging is when you take some content and make it flush right, and you make other content and make it flush left, and you run it down a center alignment or any alignment for that matter. And so flagging is kind of fun because it provides opportunities for dynamic design. So sunny days and fair nights through tomorrow, and then we flow through to the other line, warmer today, a little cooler tomorrow, blah, 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 lows, blah, 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 right? So you can see that there's some sense of organization with flagging that's kind of fun. So he's done a very nice job playing around with that center axis. And so that's something that I'd like to see you explore. Here are some extreme island breaks. And what's neat about this is that it really does separate these islands by a lot of white space. And this is key to creating good design, right? The ability to jump. We've talked about this since the beginning. The negative space allows your eye to jump around the composition and create a dynamic action. So getting onto the diagonal aspect of it, investigate the variability of 45-degree placement in one direction. We'll get to more complex layouts in part 2. For now, just leave it in one direction. Again, explore flush left and right, and a minimum of 5 layouts. So, this is a straightforward design, but here, this is very cool, right? Flagging along a diagonal, and then playing around with a little bit more of a dynamic action, right? So this is pretty cool. Keeping in mind that the angle is going from low to high. And so when the angle goes in that direction, it's a positive angle and it creates a sense of dynamic. If it goes the other way from high to low, then what happens is that's a negative angle, and that kind of can be like considered sort of a downer because the angle's going in the negative direction. Here's a center placement along that angle. Here's a lot more playful. So there are so many ways of approaching this project. And again, you can see that you're allowed to use bold, italic, and regular. And so this begins the you're very lightly touching on hierarchy, but it does provide the opportunity for exploring that in a very controlled environment. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so these are really, really nice designs. And again, 10 more of these, so that's really important. So now this is really what I call extreme letter and line spacing. Okay, let's look at the specs for that for a moment. So in the third bullet point, investigate the variability of free line placement, horizontal alignment only. So this is essentially just putting things somewhere in the design. What's nice is he's begun to explore some letter spacing, and that adds a little bit of variable. You can do that. I didn't say you can't. And so that means that if you choose to explore that a little bit, you can. And it's cool because it's starting to kind of play around a little bit with extreme letter spacing, extreme line spacing, and again, playing around just a little bit with a little more playfulness. All right. So that's essentially the concepts of what you want to be pursuing as you explore part 1 of this project. All right. So there you are. These are just very, very nice designs. Okay, so he's done a very good job. This is an A project, and so I would hope to see something similar to this from your projects. All right, carry on, folks.